So that 0-0 draw leaves it all to play for in the return leg, and you can see that next Tuesday, the 13th of May, live on ITV1 from 7:30. Then on Wednesday night, we have the other semi-final decider between Juventus and Real Madrid, live on ITV2 from 7, with highlights on ITV1 later that evening. In the meantime, from all of us, good night.
This programme was sponsored by Amstel and MasterCard, UEFA Champions League sponsors.
Saturday, a shocking discovery on a building site leads to a new investigation by MIT.
This woman is less than 25 years old.
That is my daughter!
This was a frenzied attack.
And emotions are running high.
What sort of mother are you? Rosie, outside. You might just have blown it for us.
Guest starring Bradley Walsh.
You're lying!
MIT, 9:35 Saturday, ITV1.
And thanks for choosing ITV1 this morning. News headlines in 40 minutes. At this time tomorrow, it's Trisha. Right now, Football League Extra.
Welcome to Football League Extra. Entering this final weekend of the regular season, many issues remain to be resolved, with Exeter City being the team with most to lose. They're fighting to retain their league status. More from St James's Park coming up later in the programme, but we'll start with Division 1 at the bottom, where Brighton and Stoke are bidding to avoid an immediate return to the second division after just one season in the first.
They were within 8 minutes of safety last week, but Stoke still needed a point to be sure. A defeat, and Brighton were ready to pounce. Grimsby already down, but you'd never have known it. Brighton second best in the early exchanges. Terry Mayo tangled with Chris Thompson. It looked outside. Referee Clive Wilkes thought differently. Seagull protest came to nothing. It was up to Michael Keane from the spot. 1-0. A heartbreaker for 2,500 travelling fans. And one frustrated manager. And it didn't take long for the news to filter through to Staffordshire. Then, 3 minutes into first half stoppage time, another twist at Blundell Park. Brighton had hardly been in the game when Gary Hart wriggled his way into the box, and Steve Chettle, with 600-plus career games under his belt, didn't show the benefit of that experience. A pressure penalty for Bobby Zamora. No problem. After delirium on the terraces and some 115 miles southwest, Tony Pulis knew only a goal would ease the tension. But from his point of view, it came at the wrong ground and at the wrong end. 2 minutes into the second half, Brighton suddenly began to believe. Zamora's shot deflected straight to Danny Cullett. His first goal since September, and potentially the most important he'd ever scored. Bad news travels fast. But the key moment on a day when 9 months of graft effectively came down to 90 nervous minutes arrived 10 minutes after half-time at the Britannia. Lewis Neal's cross, audited in by Adi Akinbaye. The same Akinbaye laughed out of Leicester, the same Akinbaye vilified by the fans at Palace. But now, an all-conquering hero for the vast majority of a 20,000 crowd. But it was an absolute hammer blow to Brighton. Surely, now even the most optimistic fans knew the game was almost up. And a few minutes later it was, an equaliser for Grimsby, and even Mariners fans wouldn't claim it was pretty. Dave Besant saved from Keane, but the ball cannoned back and in off Richard Hughes. A horrible way to say goodbye to Division 1. They'd come in hope and they'd sung their hearts out. But the damage was done early in the season. 4 points from 12 games before Koppel arrived. The former Palace boss has a contract that runs until October, and there's no doubt everyone wants him to stay. He was too upset to speak. But in Pulis, the Stoke faithful know they have a good man too. They were bottom when he arrived, but in 30 years in football, he's never gone down.
It means everything at this moment in time. The players have worked really, really hard. And I mean the group of players, not just the 11 have played today or the 13 or 14 have been involved. It's everybody at the football club and those fantastic supporters. And you can still hear them now. It's absolutely fantastic.
We're very disappointed, but to take it down to the last day, when a lot of people wrote us off in November, is, you know, testament to the players and the staff at the football club.
So with the relegation battle lost, can Albion hang on to their biggest asset?
I've got 3 years on my contract, and you know, if Brighton find it, you know, right to sell me, and you know, the right situation comes along, then you know, maybe things might be different.
A 5-star finale for the champions, and more than 19,000 there to see it. All the Pompey players wore white boots in a touching tribute to the departing Gianluca Festa. And he picked the perfect way to say arrivederci, albeit via a deflection. Svetoslav Todorov has been Pompey's marksman-in-chief this season, and a 10-minute second-half hat-trick saw him steal the division's Golden Boot award from underneath long-time leader David Johnson's nose. Steve Stone's cross had already been converted when Paul Merson and Yakubu teamed up to give the Bulgarian his second. Whether or not he'll be as prolific in the Premiership is up for debate. No question he's proved a bargain buy, just £750,000 from West Ham a year ago. David Weatherall couldn't stop him, at least not legally. Never any doubt who was going to take the penalty. Todorov's first treble of the season, 26 goals in total. Bradford embarrassingly outplayed, and Stone's right foot made it 5-0, a 4-goal salvo in just 19 minutes. We'll have to wait 3 weeks to see whether Wolves will be joining Portsmouth and Leicester in the top flight next season. Wanderers ahead through a wonderful solo goal from Kenny Miller. The 23rd strike of the Scots' hugely impressive campaign. Now, keeper Tim Flowers began his career at Molineux nearly 20 years ago. He got a standing ovation from both sets of fans when he came on as a late sub in his final match before retiring. And he didn't finish a loser either. Mark Ebworthy penalised for handball. Trevor Benjamin dispatched the penalty. The battle of the beaten FA Cup semi-finalists at Vicarage Road, but Watford carried all the ammunition. United hung on for 64 minutes until skipper Neil Cox bundled the ball home. Blades boss Neil Warnock left out his 2-star Michaels, Brown and Tong, and admitted he was just glad to get the game out the way. Scott Fitzgerald with the Hornets second. United meet Forest in Saturday's playoff semi, and like Warnock, boss Paul Hart rested key men as the curtain came down on the regular season. Rotherham's Alan Lee sparked a dull game into life just before the break. And that was the cue for a scoring spree. 3 more goals in 6 entertaining minutes. First, the Forest equaliser. Ricardo Skinner's quick free kick caught the Millers and the cameraman napping and let Jack Lester in. Then the promotion chasers in front, and a big moment for another of their promising crop of youngsters. Craig Westcott, only just 18, with his first senior goal. It wasn't a winner, though. A rather more mature striker sort of that. Mark Robbins, 15 years Westcott senior, with a clever equaliser. Only 3 more next season, and he'll join the exclusive 100 League Goal Club. An ultimately fruitless season for Ipswich, but at least their fans can't say they haven't been entertained. Hammered 5-1 at home by Wimbledon last week, it didn't look good when Rob Lee gave County a freakish first-half lead. Brian Clough has given the freedom of Derby before the game, but the current Rams side is a sorry shadow of Cloughie's 72 champions. Pablo Canago's claiming his 21st of the season, but the leveller looked to be an Ian Evatt own goal. It was the first of 3 Ipswich strikes in 9 one-sided minutes. Darren Bent with the second, after Andy Oakes had initially denied him. Not exactly what standard boss George Burley had in mind against his former club. Depending on the John Gregory situation, Burley may or may not be at their helm at Pride Park next season, but his old club were really starting to enjoy themselves. Jim Magilton in particular. After the Gold Glass, a rather less frenetic second half, but fittingly, skipper Matt Holland had the final say in stoppage time. Rumours abound he's about to leave after more than 300 games for the club. He'll be sorely missed. Another home win for Norwich, but another season of underachievement. Boss Nigel Worthington says he needs to buy to reach the Premiership. Of course, a little luck also helps. Tyrone Mears with one of the most bizarre own goals of the season. Worthington will meet the Canaries board for talks later this week, but insists he still feels very positive about the club. Young Irish midfielder Phil Mulrine is one of the reasons why, if the boss gets his cash, City may be a threat next term. It's fair to say that Gillingham's young defender, Nayron Nosworthy, isn't exactly a prolific scorer. Just one previous goal in 129 matches before Sunday, then amazingly, 2 in as many minutes. Nosworthy's only other strike came at Scunthorpe 3.5 years ago. Apparently, his mother's been on his case, so at least he's now guaranteed himself a quiet summer. And for the third season running, his team guaranteed themselves their highest ever league placing, 11th. And that, despite conceding a first-half penalty after Nicky Southall fouled Tommy Black. Dougie Freedman scored, but it's been a season to forget for Palace. And the same applies to Gary McAllister's Coventry, who haven't managed to win now in 12 games. The Lions had a 15-year-old on the bench and an 18-year-old on the score sheet. Tony Craig on target on his home debut. And they wrapped it up 3 minutes later through Tim Cahill after Neil Harris had hit the post. 6 wins in 8 games for Millwall. If only manager of the month Mark McGee could have found that kind of consistency earlier. Just 12 years ago, Wednesday beat Manchester United in the League Cup final. But now the second division is calling, despite a come-from-behind victory following Pedro Matthias' opener for the Saddlers. In fact, Wednesday have finished with a flourish. Unbeaten in 7 now, manager Chris Turner says they'll be the Man U of Division 2. Lloyd Owusu got them level here just a couple of minutes after coming off the bench. And then Al's Player of the Year, Alan Quinn, won it 10 minutes later. But in a desperate season, at least the fans haven't deserted them. 20,000 plus turned up. Turner has promised them the side will work however hard it takes to come straight back. Distinctly funereal at Selhurst Park, and fewer than 1,500 home fans turned up to pay their respects. Wimbledon's final match in London, after 114 years of playing in the capital, Burnley led early through Gareth Taylor. But chasing their 100th league win at Selhurst, the Dons turned their match around in the second half. First, Trond Anderson teed up David Connolly's 23rd of the campaign. And then, 9 minutes from time, the Irishman did the trick again, after substitute Patrick Agyemang made a nuisance of himself in the box. In the circumstances, a top 10 finish is a laudable achievement. Chairman Charles Coppell remains adamant that a 70-mile move will revitalise the club. We'll know in a few months. Next stop, Milton Keynes. So here's how they finished. Portsmouth had a 6-point cushion over Leicester in the end, but the focus now is on the playoffs. On Saturday lunchtime, it's Forest versus Sheffield United, and a 5:30 kick-off between Wolves and Reading. Both two-legged games, remember. And confirmation that Grimsby, Brighton and Sheffield Wednesday will be playing second division football next term. You'd have got long odds in August that Coventry and Derby would both finish in the bottom 7.
Like Division 1, all the promotion places were seemingly settled in Division 2. But for Stoke and Brighton, Reed, Chesterfield and Cheltenham, as 1 from 2 has to drop down a division. Join us again after the break.
Are we ready for action, boys?
Larkhall Screws are going to curse the day they found her.
It's Dockley, I swear it.
She's the baddest of the bad.
Dockley's dead.
And she's back.
Shell Dockley's alive.
Joining old friends.
How could you bring back that she-devil?
In making new enemies.
It isn't our very own Ronnie Biggs.
The brand new series.
Time hasn't softened any rough edges.
Bad Girls. Thursday at 9, ITV1.
I'm a detective chief inspector and I can't protect my own kids. Can't even keep up with the shopping.
A woman's work is never done.
Well, you finally got it. Senior officer in charge.
I thought I'd give you a crack at the whip.
He's being leaned on to meet his minority targets, and despite my size, I'm a minority.
Caroline Quentin.
I've got a dead man on my desk, Butchers, and I want him off it before the maggots start to hatch.
The drama premiere, Blue Murder, coming soon to ITV1.
Can't get the staff.
Three already knew their fate, but who would be relegated along with Huddersfield, Mansfield and Northampton? It was between Cheltenham and Chesterfield, who needed a win at Blackpool to be sure of staying up. Jonathan Douglas, on loan from Blackburn, gave Chesterfield the lead 6 minutes before half-time. At around the same time, Notts County went in front against Cheltenham, so if nothing changed, Chesterfield was safe. But Blackpool equalised, Scott Taylor making it 1-1. Cheltenham had to win, so a point would still be enough for Chesterfield, who then missed a penalty after Rob Edwards took a tumble. Maybe the importance of the occasion got to David Reeves, but luckily for him and Chesterfield, this miss didn't prove costly. Cheltenham had gone 7 games without defeat and made a positive start to their must-win fixture. Jamie Victory heading against the bar. Cheltenham continued to be bold, but they fell behind shortly before half-time. Mark Stallard's cross headed in by Danny Allsop. Cheltenham were heading for Division 3, despite a spirited showing in the second half. Mark Yates saw his shot hit the post. Wigan needed a win to reach 100 points, and the champions were able to round off their season in style. Tony Dinning's goal after 13 minutes was enough for Wigan, who were already planning for next season. Wigan's manager, Paul Jewell, has agreed to a new contract, and the club chairman, Dave Whelan, says that he's ready to provide the funds necessary to finance a push for the Premiership. Two of the second division's top scorers took centre stage at Gresty Road. Crewe's Rob Hulse couldn't add to his 27-goal total, Neil Alexander making a fine save, but Alexander couldn't stop Crewe taking the lead just before half-time. Richard Walker the scorer. Cardiff started with their top scorer, Rob Earnshaw, on the bench, but he made history when he came on and scored their equaliser. Earnshaw's 31st league goal. That broke the Cardiff record of 30 goals in a league season, held by Stan Richards since 1947. Cardiff in the playoffs, as they were last season when they missed out to Stoke City in the semi-finals. Crewe can relax. They're up as runners-up. Next for Cardiff are Bristol City, who climbed to third with their 7th successive home win. Scott Murray got them on the way. Murray has got 27 goals this season. Bristol City were beaten last week at Chesterfield, but that was their only defeat in 10 games on the run-in. Lee Peacock made it 2-0 at the second attempt. Manager Danny Wilson couldn't have asked for more. There's been little for supporters of Huddersfield to cheer this season, so they deserved a treat on the last day. Danny Schofield was able to provide it. A fantastic goal. Oldham had only lost twice away from home all season and controlled the second half. Tony Carse got their equaliser. His shot was nearly as good as Schofield's. He's 34 years of age and he didn't cost them a penny, but Paul Furlong has made a massive contribution to Rangers' season. Furlong came close in the first half at Layer Road, and guess who was there to put Rangers ahead 7 minutes after half-time? Furlong setting up a playoff against Oldham. Tranmere's 14-game unbeaten run seems sure to end at Edgeley Park. Aaron Wilbraham put Stockport ahead, his 7th goal of the season, and his 7th goal in 6 games. No wonder he was lapping up the acclaim. Stockport were unbeaten in 5 games, winning 4 and drawing the other one at Luton last Saturday. They went 2-up with a goal from Andrew Welsh. But the game changed just after half-time when Tranmere were awarded a penalty. Jason Price was fouled, but the incident was outside the area. Stockport complained, but Shane Nicholson didn't fret. Tranmere now had some hope. Tranmere only just missed out on the playoffs, and on the run-in, a goal from Simon Howard was almost obligatory. They do well to claim this as number 22, a massive deflection off Rob Clare. Like Howard, Gary Jones had been on target in last Tuesday's 3-1 win over Mansfield, and Jones completed this unlikely turnaround. Wycombe last won on March the 18th, and their miserable run continued at Home Park. Plymouth's winner was scored by Nathan Lowndes just 2 minutes after he'd come on as a substitute. Lowndes had last scored on the opening day of the season, back on August the 10th. Luton's failure to reach the playoffs should be the signal for much coming and going at Kenilworth Road in the summer. We weren't good enough to go up, was manager Joe Kinnear's assessment. Tony Thorpe gave Luton the lead at the county ground on his first appearance since March the 1st. Thorpe's effort, his 16th goal of the season, was cancelled out by Stefan Miglioranzi. Swindon scored twice in 2 minutes. Sam Parkin made it 2-1. That was his 26th goal of the season. Peterborough ended the season with a flourish, extending their unbeaten run to 9 games with a draw at Brentford. Andy Clark nipped in to claim his 19th goal of the season. He'd scored when Peterborough hammered Brentford 5-1 last September. Barry Fry was named the second division's manager of the month for April. His team couldn't end the season with a win. Steve Evans equalising for Brentford. A game between the bottom 2 and Northampton couldn't have wished for a better start. A first-minute goal for Darren Stamp, who'd also scored in last week's 2-2 draw with Plymouth. Mansfield were looking for their first win in 9 games, and they got it. Andy White made it 1-1. Then Mansfield were awarded a penalty when Junior Mendes was pushed. Liam Lawrence scored from the penalty spot when Mansfield were beaten 3-1 at Tranmere on Tuesday, and he was equally sure-footed against Northampton. 2-1 Mansfield, but too late to stop the slide into the 3rd division. Wigan and Crewe are promoted. In the first leg of the playoff semi-finals on Saturday, it's Cardiff versus Bristol City and Oldham against Queen's Park Rangers. Cheltenham were promoted by the 3rd division playoffs last season. Now they're on their way back. This time last year, Huddersfield were in the 2nd division playoffs. Mansfield was celebrating automatic promotion. Northampton complete the quartet of clubs who had a season to forget.
Coming up after the break, all the action from the top and bottom of Division 3 as Washford and Hartlepool play off for the title, and Exeter find out where they'll be playing next season. Will there be a local derby against Yeovil?
We're down to the final 4. But after last week's surprise public vote...
Ruben, you're in the bottom 2 this week.
Expect the unexpected.
You know, there's a bit of shock here. I want to go to the judges for a second.
This is crazy, dude. I don't know what's going on in America.
They couldn't believe it.
I think you two guys should be laughing hysterically.
Even Simon was speechless.
It's someone's career, not just a television show.
We're holding out for the American Idol, Friday 8:30 ITV2.
Hey ladies, does your gorgeous boyfriend lack a certain something? This is a hard one. Does he, I don't know, look like a monkey and smell like one too? If so, relax. I have the answer to all of your boyfriend's problems. So email me at briansboyfriends@blaze.tv, or ladies, pick up the phone and call me on 0901 388 8211. Cost across no more than 25 pence, but it's going to be worth it.
Tuesday night, Gay Meadow, and somebody had to fall. Shrewsbury had to win, and Nigel Jemson's penalty gave them the right start. But Brian Wake's hat-trick finished them off, and it meant Carlisle was safe. And after 53 years, Shropshire's finest were out of the Football League. It was the likeliest outcome of the week, but still hard to bear.
I can't believe it. Well, we're on our worst enemies. You know, we've given stupid goals away again today, and it's cost us.
It was too much for fans who'd seen Everton knocked out of the Cup. Kevin Radcliffe heard the calls and resigned the next day. So to Saturday, and the spotlight moved westwards. Either Swansea or Exeter would join Shrewsbury in the conference. It's been an unstable season for the Grecians. Changes in the dugout and the boardroom. Consequences on the pitch.
It's been probably one of the worst years of my life, being down here at Exeter. We took over the club with an enormous amount of debt. And then that debt obviously escalated with what came out of the woodwork. And there's an infestation within the city that, you know, Exeter City is, yeah, always Exeter City, you know, they're not going to do anything, they never will do anything. And that's the belief that they have in the city, and rightfully so. The fans have had nothing to cheer about now for 10, 11 years.
But still, they came. Of the 9,000 who flocked to St James's Park, perhaps only John Russell knew what to expect. He took over the club a year ago and was Scarborough chairman when they dropped out of the league in 1999.
Everyone definitely will be very, very nervous. There's no doubt, because you understand this is, again, it's a landmark. It's not dropping into from Premiership into First. This is out of the league, for goodness sake. This is huge. You must understand that Exeter City Football Club, they were lingering at the bottom, you know, places for years, more than 10 years. So in a way, everything was directing to a moment like this.
It's not the end of the world. I think the conference is an excellent league, and I'm not resulted to going in there, but we are in the hands of others.
If worse comes to worse, we will try to spring out of conference immediately.
And you will be involved next year if you are down in the conference?
Oh, absolutely. I will be involved with Exeter City Football Club to the day I die, and hopefully I'll be able to help from the other side too.
I'm confident we're going to win, but that's about it, I think.
Swansea you can't control, who knows?
Can't control that. None of us can do anything about that one, no.
It's not in our hands. If you know, we win and still go down, I just don't think there's any point in really being nervous about it. We've just got to play to the best of our ability, which we can do.
The queues meant a 15-minute delay to kick off in Devon, but in South Wales they kicked off on time, and while Exeter waited there was immediate drama. Leon Britton went down under Sean Smith's challenge. And James Thomas's penalty suggested no nerves at all. But the celebrations of an even bigger crowd than Exeter could manage didn't last. A minute later, Lee Jenkins dallied and Stuart Elliott pounced for Hull. Down in the West Country, the news filtered through to the faithful, many of whom were still looking for a vantage point to watch the game, with the full house signs already up. When they finally did kick off, Exeter soon wished they hadn't. Phil Baker upended Brett Darby, and Southend, mere bit players in the unfolding drama, had a penalty. Now the supporters couldn't believe what they were seeing as well as hearing, and that sense grew when Player of the Year Kevin Miller became Hero of the Hour. If Tess Bramble's penalty had turned out right, so were events at Vetch Field. Michael Howard's turn to slip up, Martin Reeves took advantage, and Hull took the lead. You didn't need to be psychic to know what that meant. A draw and Exeter would be safe. But while Uri Geller and son Daniel celebrated, Exeter went looking for a goal to make sure. Manager Gary Peters kept them focused, but the next distraction soon arrived from Swansea. In the final minute of the first half, handball against Hull defender Justin Whittle. He looked stunned. It looked a harsh call. And Thomas's second penalty looked just like his first one. And suddenly things looked bleak again at Exeter. Half-time at St James's meant they were playing again at the Vetch, and Swansea found their form just when it mattered. Lenny John Rose poked home a Roberto Martinez corner. But the goal which saved their league status was worthy of an even bigger occasion. James Thomas stood on Swansea's north bank as a kid. His hat-trick was sealed with the stuff of boyhood dreams. And it meant a waking nightmare for the Grecians. Exeter battled for pride through the second half, all the time knowing that the game was up. The final whistle at the Vetch confirmed it, and the tears followed in the stands and in the boardroom. They sang to mark the end of 83 years in the Football League, but only Swansea could celebrate. Victory meant survival, and while Gary Peters hesitates to commit his future to Exeter, Brian Flynn can plan for next season at least. As the Welsh parted, an agonising last 15 minutes finally produced an injury-time winner for the Grecians' top scorer, Steve Flack. A third straight victory couldn't produce a happy end, and with debts of almost £2 million, a fresh start won't be easy for Exeter.
I was amazed at the fans, you know, the love that they showed. It's just awful to win and go down. This is fate, and what can I tell you? I'm just devastated.
Unbelievable. It's just, you know, through all the bad times, you never even thought it'd get this far. The last few games we started playing well, and we thought we'd manage it, we'd nick it at the last minute, but it's just terrible, terrible.
I couldn't believe that I'm standing here now after what we've just achieved. If you'd have asked me if I'd settle for 20 points in the 13 games when they'd just lost the previous 5 games, I would have jumped at it, and that's what we've got, and we've done magnificent, and unfortunately we're still going down, and they don't really deserve to be on what I've seen of them.
It's not like going down from the second to the third. The future of the club's in jeopardy as well now. So the club we've all loved and supported for all these years, it's not a question of getting behind them and supporting them to bounce straight back up. It's in the close season, can we survive as a club?
We've got to take it on the chin. There's nobody else behind me. We take the club on. There's nobody else behind me that's going to pay the debt off. We've got to stay there, you know, and get on with it. But as far as I'm concerned, I'd rather feel now that, like, hey, let's be at the top of the conference, wishing for league status, let's clear this debt, and let's give this club a new lease of life, because it really needs it.
A very different kind of drama at Nen Park, where two teams heading out of Division 3 in the right direction played off for the title. Commentary from Dan Hagen.
Might break here for Big Knot. It's Marcus Big Knot with a strike, and a goalkeeper beats it away. Paul Hall has to spin away and find Dwayne Darby. Darby strong. Big Knot's cross, and Paul Hall with the opening goal in Division 3's title decider. And run for the level. It's Chris Westwood. And now we have a grandstand finish, because if they score again, they are champions. The Rushden and Diamonds story continues to grow and grow. First the Doc Martens League, then the Conference, now the Division 3 title. What next for Rushden and Diamonds, champions of Nationwide League Division 3?
Hartlepool's draw wasn't enough to deny Rushden the title, but it did mean Wrexham couldn't steal second spot in the table. And that was despite an 8th straight win for Dennis Smith's side, whose confidence was summed up by Carlos Edwards. With Bury assured of a playoff spot, boss Andy Priest rested several key men, and it showed. But defender Danny Swales must have wished that he'd been given the day off too. And it wasn't just a good weekend for Sir Alex Ferguson. His son Darren completed Wrexham's victory with their 15th goal in the last 4 games. He then proceeded to predict promotion from Division 2 for the Red Dragons next season. That result won't exactly boost Bury's confidence for their meeting with a Bournemouth side who finished the regular season on the right note. It needed 2 goals in the last 4 minutes from James Hayter to beat Carlisle, who for once was spared a last-day cliffhanger by Tuesday's win at Shrewsbury. The defeat meant Roddy Collins' men finished just a point above Exeter, but the manager has already vowed to win promotion next season. And after 5 straight seasons dodging the drop, Carlisle's fans would welcome a change. Shrewsbury played their first league game in 1950 against Scunthorpe, and the Iron provided the opposition for their last. Luke Rogers may be too much for most conference defences to handle. His 20th goal of the season put the Shrews in front just before half-time. But they were denied a farewell victory by Paul Dalgleish, son of Kenny and on loan from Blackpool. His second and third goals for the club condemned Shrewsbury to their 8th defeat in a row, but their first under Mark Atkins, placed in charge after Kevin Ratcliffe's resignation. And Saturday's results have set up Scunny for a local derby in the playoffs. They'll face Lincoln, who left it mighty late to secure their spot in the end-of-season lottery. Torquay blew their chances with a home defeat by Carlisle last week, but did their best to drag the Imps down with them. Martin Gritton's 13th goal of the season put the Devon side ahead, and that lead should have been doubled 3 minutes.